What's up there, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Eddie, also known as Driveway Built 460. Well, it looks like we are back in the office again and doing some more upgrades to the Lexus GX460. Got a question for you guys. So obviously you guys watch the channel. That means you guys enjoy modifications, off-roading, and outdoor activities. So with that being said, you guys will know firsthand, we tend, or at least I do, I pack this thing from top to bottom and it's just filled. So that means my rear view mirror is useless, it's pointless. I really can't use it because everything just blocks its path and that forces me to use my side mirrors. So we obviously can't see from the back of the rear view mirror. So what's the solution for that? I got you guys. Right over here is the answer. Obviously, this needs no introduction. This is the Wolfbox G900 TriPro bumper dash cam made for off-road enthusiasts. But without further ado, let's go ahead, unbox this, see what comes inside, and install it. So this is what Wolfbox sent over to me. We have our main mirror here, of course, our brackets, our SD card for memory storage, and also a hardwire kit that comes along with this. Now, I do believe I'm not going to be using this. I'm going to keep this out from the install, so that's not going to be included. But everything else you see here is going to be installed into the GX460. Now, I do want to talk about Wolfbox's hardwire kit. I do think it's one of the better options. When we take a look at this, you guys can see this is the length of cable you get. And then back over here, this plugs right into your OBD2 port. So there's none of that fuss where you have to deal with which fuse you have to tap into and look up fuse diagrams. It's just one simple plug to your OBD2 port and you're good to go. Because here's a power end back over here. This will plug back into your Wolfbox G900. And yeah, if this is an option for you, which I'm not going to use, but I want to just briefly discuss about what this is and what they sent over to me. I've already have a power station that's already managed within my vehicle, so I won't be using this, but if you end up getting this, it's easily used just by the OBD2 port. Of course, our SD card, 256 gigabytes of storage. Mounting bracket for the mirror. Looks like the mounting spot for the mirror itself. Looks like you mount this right over here like so. Trim tool or a pry tool. It looks like a new mounting point for the mirror itself. So obviously with a disclosure, I did reach out to Wolfbox and they sent out this unit for me to test out. You guys have no idea how excited I am to get this. Two of my buddies already have the exact same unit and I just drool over their setup and I'm happy I have it finally in my GX now. So there is the mirror itself. That is a beautiful sight, guys. Take a look at that. Here is the back of the screen along with that. I do need to get I think a CPL or ND filter to put this in the mirror, to put this on the camera so we can have more sharper images when it's recording. All right, let's set this to the side. Rear camera bracket, user manual. We have our GPS from what it looks like right here, and a rear camera, more prying tools and accessories. We have the power supply, which we won't use, but we will be using the bumper camera and also extra cable clips, and of course more wires that we have to use and install. So here we are, guys. This is everything all laid out. What I do want to talk about is the mounting solutions for the camera. So you got two options with this. Already, the mirror itself, you can see they have these hook designs right over here, and it's on four corners, and that's where these guys here will come in. So this is a rubber, I guess the brackets you can use that wraps around the mirror. Now I can use this because this might work out for some of you guys, and if you guys use your home link button on your garage door on your OEM mirror, this is going to be a fantastic solution for you. All you would do is, so you would take the rubber elastic band, wrap it around your OEM mirror, and just make the connection, and that keeps everything all together. And what's nice about that is you can still be able to access your HomeLink Garage button. So in my case, I still use my HomeLink Garage button here to open and close my garage door. So having the Wolfbox sit right in front of it might make sense because I can still have access to the buttons down here to open the garage. But in this case, if you choose not to, what happens is there are these adhesive tapes on here. You take these off and that'll expose the screws holding on to these hooks back here. And then this is where this mounting bracket comes in. It would sit right here and along with this guy here. Once you get that fully mounted and secured, and now you can use a mirror as a standalone piece all by itself without having two mirrors in the same spot. I think I will play with the configurations and then we'll kind of go from there, but I think for now, because I want a seamless look, I might just keep it with this bracket here and use that as the solution for now. But if I end up changing my mind to putting this back on, it won't be that difficult because I do want to use my HomeLink Garage button, but that means I'll have to now, if I want to use this here instead, I would have to carry my garage door remote clicker instead. Alright guys, so for the install, we are starting off right here in the front of the bumper. Since we have our front camera, we're going to install this back right over here in the front, work our way through the engine bay, through the back, and then from there, and then we'll install the Wolfbox G900 in this location for the OEM mirror. And then we hop over to the back and we'll finish up right back over here because this is where we're going to run the wires from the headliner all the way from the back through our panels over here, through our wire loom, through the back of the cargo over here, and on up. And once we get that over to the other side, we then mount our camera right here in this spot. Alright, so obviously we're opening up the hood because we have to have access to that area. Alright, so on my TRD style type of mesh grill that I have here, there is a cutout that you guys can already see made for a front camera. So we're going to go ahead and take this one off and place the Wolfbox front camera in this location instead. Alright, so the front camera here is held on by just two screws. That's just drilled into my grill and it comes out. Yeah, that's not going to sit in there correctly. So current update, I did end up putting the aftermarket camera back in its location here since the Wolfbox camera did not fit in this little spot here. I ended up putting it right beneath here under my winch fair lead. So this may not be for everybody, but for me this is going to work out just fine because I off-road with the vehicle and I usually tend to lead my group. So having a camera here at this spot of the location is more ideal for my purpose. This will help spot me when I'm navigating through technical terrains. What I basically did was for this install, I unloosened the bolts to the fair lead up here. That basically allowed this to become loose, and when it became loose, I just basically wedged the bracket for the camera between the fair lead and also the bumper. Then I took the wire right between my skid plate and the bumper, but this would be perfect for the setup for what I need it for. And again, this can move up and down freely. So we're gonna go ahead and make our connections. So I've already routed the wires through here, and you can't mess this up. The front camera has a 4-pin, as you guys can see from here. It's a 4-pin. The rear camera has a 6-pin for that one. So I'm gonna just follow the groove of that, make our connection. All right, so we've made our first official connection. So this next step, we're going to route the wires between all of this mess over here, back to the front, and then to the firewall, and from the firewall back over to where the Wolfbox camera is going to be at. I was able to get it through. If you guys aren't using it, I have a big zip tie here that I use, put some tape at the very end, and I basically fish this through the tightest spots to get through the other end. Put some tape on here. Once I got that done, I was able to stake this all through using the Velcro, using the zip tie to just pull the entire wire on through. So now we're working on putting the rest of the wires through the firewall. All right, so I ran the large zip tie through the firewall, the big large grommet So I've already taped the cable in right over here. So now we're just gonna pull back on the other side where the cabin is and feed the rest of this wire on through. So here's the end of the zip tie. We're gonna just pull this right through the fire grommet and hopefully it just comes right on through. And there it goes, just like that, guys. All right, so our next process, I've done this plenty of times, but if you guys are new, I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys how this is gonna work. We're gonna start now removing our trim panels and also our door gaskets, which is these guys right over here. So let's start by removing this piece here, just out of the way for now. That comes off. And this trim piece here, or this door gasket here, or this weather stripping, I should say, just comes right off. And that exposes now everything else on the A-pillar back over here. So at this point, we are going to be removing the A-pillar handles. So we have one here on the driver's side and one back over here on the passenger side. So trim tool, let's remove our cover here. It's going to be a 10 mil on both sides. In my case, I also have a Allen head on this side. You can then pop off the handle, comes right off, and you can pull this guy right on back so you can squeeze the wires on up and over and back over here. At the driver's side again, grab our end over here, find a spot that I can feed this on through, and then once I have that, we're gonna go right on through. So I'm now going to run the wires, as you can already see. So I'm gonna feed this right on over and through again. Okay, I believe that is enough wires that it's good enough for me to use. So we're gonna start putting things back together again, and then we'll work on getting the Wolfbox camera mounted. Remember, I have this all tucked behind the airbag, sealed back in its place. I'm going back over to the engine bay. We do have an excess of wires here. I'm just gonna carefully just group them all up, wrap them, and then just place them all right back over here in their new home. Tightly packed. They're not gonna go anywhere. I can just tuck this right back over here, out of the way. But everything is tucked away, and just look at it. It's nice, clean, and very simple. No wires all over the place here. Our next step is we're gonna focus on taking off the OEM mirror, and these buttons will all come out. So if you flip this up, it's going to expose a screw back over here. So I'm gonna use a T20 to take this one out. Alright guys, so now that we have our connections all taken off, the screws are already taken out, that T20 bolt. So the mirror, it's just it should just slide out. So that means you gotta bring it up, and it's right off from its little mounting location. This might take a little finesse, but yeah, there it goes. So now we have it out. So now let's work on assembling the new camera in its home. So we can take a look. Here's our OEM camera versus the Wolfbox. So it's much larger in diameter and also longer in a sense too, but everything is all touchscreen on the Wolfbox. So this is, I believe, it's just all tape. That'll expose a screw that's back over here. And there it is, right down there. And then we'll grab our small screwdriver and then start taking these screws out. So once you have those clips all taken out, it'll look just like that. And now we're prepping in for the new one. So it's just mounting on just like so. So it looks like we're gonna just reuse the existing ones that we pulled off from here. So let's just clip it right into its place. And once you have them in, just screw them on in. And all right, so that base is in. And now we grab this guy, and that's gonna go over here in this spot. All right, so our Wolfbox is complete. Let's go put this back into the GX.
The next day.
Okay, so after a much heated debate with myself, I ended up keeping the rubber bands that straps around the OEM mirror. Now, I have two reasons of why I am doing this. Number one is my OEM mirror keeps and also has my HomeLink garage buttons to allow me to come in and out of my garage. So I cannot give that up. I could use the included remote that comes with that. I can clip it back onto my visor, which I don't want to do. So that's number one. Number two, my OEM mirror also has a power source. So if you guys take a look, right up over here, there's a white connector. And this white connector here plugs into my Dongar system, which is right over here to my right. It's basically a hardwired kit, but for the power mirror for your vehicle. And this works for majority of most Toyotas and other makes and models as well. But for this powers on my other dash cam, and this will do the exact same thing, power on my Wolfbox G900. So this right here, guys, is my Dongar adapter. If you guys take a look, it has several different modes. We have a ignition, continuous, and also timer. So it depends on what you want to do. You can set it on 3 of these modes. And this is what's great about this, because you can set it on, for me, I'm always setting it on continuous. That means that this is going to be on at all times, running while my vehicle is recording using its dash camera. So this is great to have. It's really easy. It's supposed to help keep your vehicle looking OEM without dealing with all that hardwired kit where you got to run the wires from the top of the headliner and also finding a fuse area to tap into. So with this, it just hooks up directly into this white connector over here that's on my left, and that powers on the Dongar adapter using your OEM vehicle's power to power it on. So this is going to be what I'm going to be using to power on my Wolfbox G900 using my Dongar Technologies adapter. So if you guys are interested in the same thing, I'll link down in the description of a discount that you guys can use, and also a link to the exact same product that I'm using in my Lexus GX460. And I do believe they use this across different platforms and models and different makes. So Toyotas, Hondas, Acuras, Mazdas, Nissans, Porsche, Subarus, I believe as well. If you guys are looking for something that is really easy to install, that takes literally just minutes to do, Dongars is going to be one of the best bets you guys can use, and also one of the coolest mods you can add to your vehicle. All right, so let's move on, guys. So taking a look over here, this is our power management slots over here. We have our power, our AV, this is going to be our front camera, SD card slot, this is going to be our GPS input, and also our rear camera. So let's go ahead and start plugging things in. This is my front camera I have over here. I can plug this in right here in this slot. This is going to be a power going from our Dongar now to our Wolfbox G900. So all that's left is we have our SD cards already in, and then we have to put in our GPS, which is going to be next. And after this, we're going to work on our rear camera. So for this next step, I'm going to choose to put our GPS, which is this guy right here. I'm going to hide this guy more than likely right between here. So that's why I have the camera panned up and zoomed over here. We're going to take off this center dome light and place my GPS right through here. Feed the wires from the headliner back on over and down to the mirror. I'm going to grab my pry tool right over here, and we're going to just wedge this between here, pop that off. I'm going to pull this forward, and then out comes the dome light. And now we have access to this whole entire area where we can put the GPS right into. So our GPS unit does come with a double-sided sticky back, and I think I'm going to put this right here along that metal surface right here. Tape's coming right off. And we're going to just mount this right here, guys. It's not going to go anywhere. And then we're going to feed our cable through so we can plug this in to our Wolfbox. Okay, so there's the wire, and here's the jack. All right, so plug this in. There we go. I'm going to tug on the wire up here to kind of get rid of that slack or the excess of it. All right, so our GPS is set for the most part. We can put the center dome light back into its spot. Then after that, let's work on the rear camera. So we're going to focus our attention back over here. We're going to take off the A-pillar and also the grab handle back over here. And we're also going to remove the weather stripping here as well. Because when we do that, I can do it right now and show you guys what this looks like. So this comes down. And when that does, that exposes the back piece over here. You guys can see there's already wires going through there. So the same route, we're going to route the wires from the back all the way from the front and right through here, and then back on over the headliner, and then back to our Wolfbox camera. And of course, on the rear door, we'll do the exact same thing. It's that easy, guys. So you don't have to really force wires through here. Just pull this weather stripping down, and that exposes your spot, and that way you can run the wires safely back up here. All right. So we are now working on our rear camera now. I'm going to start taking everything here apart, all the door trims and also door panels from the back of the barn door right over here, and also part of the cargo area. Remove some of that and run the lines from here down there, back on over to where we remove those weather strippings, and then back over to the Wolfbox G900. So we're going to take off the cover here. This is going to expose a few bolts. So once you have everything removed, you're going to expose this one bolt right there. We're going to take off this bolt here. It's just a 10mm bolt that comes out. And after that, there's going to be one screw between the grab handle. Pop this cover off. And there's that screw. All right, guys. So at this point in time, you can grab your pry tool and start prying things off. We're going to take off the panel, panel by piece. You have to make sure your rear pop-up glass is open so that we can take off the panel back over here. So find a spot that you can wedge the pry tool in and just start taking off the clips. And once you have that, start breaking things off. We're going to take off the trim panel up here. And now we can take off the panel. Okay, so with our trim panel removed, we're going to work on this panel back over here now. So it's just basically just one screw holding onto this panel here. And again, you grab your pry tool and just start pulling panels off. Again, they're all just held on by clips. So this little hook latch here, just gotta twist this and it comes right off. And once you pull it off, it's going to expose the screw that's right inside. It's a pretty long screw, so keep that in mind. Screw comes out. And now we can grab our pry tool and start prying things open. Because what we want to do is feed our wire down in through here and right down on this little wire loom, which is a big grommet here, that feeds down through here and then back through the barn door and up and out to the rear spoiler. For the wire loom here, nothing crazy, nothing fancy, just pull your finger, just pry your finger into the grommet here and just pull it right out. And once you have that, it'll expose the other end. And there we go. All right, so next we're going to use my trusty long zip tie. We're going to feed this zip tie right through here in this grommet through the wire loom and through the other side, and we can be able to pull the wire, this wire here, through the wire loom and back on over so we can feed it back this way. All right, so we'll grab the zip tie and the wire and just tape them together. And there you have it. Easy as pie. We're going to now open up the glass hatch. Push my button here. Open this up. And then once we have that open, we can take a look. You can now see there's a trim panel that goes across over here. Now there should be it's held up by basically some clips. So there's one clip, 2, 3, and 4. And it just slides right on out. I've already went ahead and unfastened the bolts already. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. All right, you guys, so once we have all those bolts unfastened, we're going to close the rear hatch here, be gentle, and we should be able to take off our spoiler. And there it goes, comes right off. All right, so at this point, spoiler is off. We're going to remove the third brake light. Wherever you guys decide to mount your rear camera is up to you guys. This is what I'm doing, and this is for me. So if you guys don't want to watch this part, feel free to skip. All right, so now at this point, we just mount the new camera right in this home. I may have to drill new holes through this spot. All right, so for this part here, I did try to put the cable through this slot here, and unfortunately it's a little bit too small, so I have to grab my drill and drill a new, or at least a little bit bigger hole in this spot. All right, so there we go. All right guys, so current status, if you guys take a look, I drilled 2 holes, one here and one right over here. I'm gonna use the included hardware to mount this on. Screws here so that way it doesn't move on me. All right, so, and there we go. The reverse light that's gonna trigger it, I'm gonna grab the wire here, I'm gonna feed it through right behind the panel over here. Now, the reason why I took off the rear tail light is, if you take a look, this is the back of how it looks like without no tail light. There's a hole right here, and I can feed this on through, but the wire is gonna come out from back over here, feed that through, and I can be able to tap the reverse light from here, so I can be able to trigger the backup camera when it turns on from the very top right over here. So I'm gonna quickly do that, and I'm gonna show you guys how I'm gonna make that work. All right, so my method of how I'm gonna get this wire to go on through is using a zip tie, a very long zip tie. Wrap it around several times. All right, so it might be kind of hard for me, but easier for you guys since you guys are viewing it from that angle. But I'm gonna feed my zip tie right on through, and I think it's out. So that is how you get it on through. Pretty easy, right? So my GX460 has a reverse light over here, and this is where it's normally known at, because right up above there, there's no reverse light. Our reverse light is right down over here where this is at. The red wire here is my positive. I'm going to basically splice this and cut this up, make my connection, and then we're gonna grab one of these wire solder seals here. And that's it, guys. Well, let's move on. So for this part here, we're gonna route the wires back from the back panel to the front. But what I like to do is, you're gonna have an excess of wires, right? So instead of trying to run everything from back here to the front, I'm gonna start from the front and work the way back, because whatever I have that's gonna be excess of wires, I'm gonna wrap them up and put them right behind this panel here, so I don't have to worry about a bunch of wires up towards the front. So don't forget, when you run the wires through, you gotta make sure you run it through this part here first. We're gonna go through the pillar here, and we're gonna drive the wire right on through the passenger side. All right, so there we go. I'm gonna keep feeding the line right on through. All right, so got the wires coming on through. And recall, we pulled this weather stripping here down, right? So now we should have a spot that we can fish this back on through, right through here. And now we can connect it back over here to the G900. Grab our weather stripping here, line this back up. There's gonna be a little notch right here. If you guys can see, that notch is gonna go right along this pinch weld here. All right, guys, so at this point in time, we are now in the back of the GX. And if we take a look, here's our wire. I already have part of it started. It's kind of going in right over here. So you want to have your pry tool, because you're going to use this to push everything down. Down, down, down. All right, guys, so now that you guys have reached this part over here, pretty simple, not that hard. You want to just just drive this down to the back of the trim panel. And once you have that there, you can pull this guy back, because it's already loose, right? And you put this right behind here. And now your wires are fully concealed back here. And then here is all the excess wires here. This is quite a bit, right? putting this all together. And I'm gonna tuck this right behind here. All right, so let's just pull this back some. I'm gonna just tuck this right behind here. Okay, once we have that, we're gonna snap this back into place. This, snap back into place. And then that's pretty much it, guys. We're gonna put our screw back in here. And then we're gonna go ahead and turn on the Wolfbox. And if we did everything right, the Wolfbox should turn on. Okay, so this is gonna be our last connection that we have to put onto the Wolfbox G900. This is the rear camera. I'm gonna insert this right here where it goes. And now we just have to see if this thing turns on. So right beneath the Wolfbox G900, there's a orange button here. So let's go ahead and push the orange button. And there we go, we got power. All right, so automatically, this is our rear view camera. Let's kind of just go through this. That should be the front camera. And then, whoa, why is it green? Oh, let's take off the, there's a cover on the lens still. If I put my finger here, you can see it's still there. But everything turns on. I do want to see though, and make sure that the reverse camera works. So you guys can take a look. There's 3 views. The front camera, which is the dash cam, front camera towards the front of the bumper, and then the rear camera for the backup. So let's see if the connection was right. We should have reverse as well on the dash camera. So let's try that out. And there you guys have it. There's our guidelines for the reverse. Everything works as it should. My display on my navigation works as well, but we now have camera that works for reverse too. So what's great about this is the camera is fixed in the back of the GX, but what's nice about Wolfbox is you can actually turn this up or down and change the view angles depending on where you like to prefer to have it. So that is pretty awesome to have. So we know that works. Let's go ahead and peel off the covers here. This is the most satisfying part. Cool. Went ahead and I purchased a CPL filter off Amazon to help reduce glare on the dash cam. So this is going to be a great addition to the dash camera. All right, so with everything peeled off and all the covers are off from the cameras, let's go ahead and take a look and see how much more clear the image is now with all the covers off. And let's see what that looks like. Whoa, so check that out. Everything is now in high definition. Our front camera is going to be a 4K camera, and the one to the rear is going to be a 2.5K camera. And I believe the front camera is going to be a 1080p. But yeah, let's check that out, guys. CPL filter is on. That looks good. You can adjust the camera up or down, as you guys can see here. So what's nice is the camera, you can twist this you can turn this clockwise or counterclockwise to straighten the image out. And then of course tilt up and down to whichever directions that you prefer. Now my CPL filter is off. It's right here. Let's put this back on to see what that does to the image. Of course it's not bright in my garage, but you guys can see a before, after, before, and then after. And I can also change the polarity thanks to the CPL filter. You can see where it's starting to shift. You can see the glares on the windshield right there, and if I keep turning it, they go away. So that's what's great about having a CPL filter. But alright guys, it's nice and sharp, image is clear. Let's swipe on through. You get 3 images that you prefer to do. So if you want to keep it on this, you can definitely keep it on this part of the mirror here, so you can see your front dash camera, your front view camera, and your rear camera. All right, guys, that wraps up the installation of the Wolfbox G900 into my Lexus GX460. If you guys liked what you guys saw in the video, I'll leave a description down in the box down below so you guys can get one just like my GX460. I do want to give a special shout out to Wolfbox for sending out their G900 to basically add to the build to the GX460. It's definitely going to be a great use, and again, I'm super happy and ecstatic that I have this now in my GX460. But until then, guys, make sure you guys like, comment down below, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next adventure. Peace out, guys.